happened during the game.
Right at kickoff.
Or right before during the game.
Yeah.
It was 7:30, I think, the shooting
It had nothing to do with fans or anything like that.
But the crazy thing was, of course, then the next day I started getting text messages from lots of family members going, you were at the game?
Yeah.
Were you else? I'm like, no, it was 3 blocks away, and it was during the game, and we're all good to go. But what was amazing to me is we didn't even know about it. I didn't know about it until I got home.
So I knew about it. Really, we didn't even bring that up? Because I knew about it in the game because somebody posted on my Facebook.
Oh, I didn't know
post that we were tagged in.
Oh, okay.
Or that you and John were tagged in.
I didn't look at that.
Saying that there was a shooting, so I saw it, and I know John mentioned it to me.
Yeah, I don't think we talked. But whatever, and that's why
we apparently ignored you.
And that's why our Uber lady couldn't get into where she was supposed to get into because it's supposed to be set up that way.
Yeah, and that was a cluster of a trip.
Yeah.
Again, that's why when we take Uber, we usually walk a couple blocks away to get the Uber.
That was painful.
Yeah, just to clean that up. So it happened. It apparently happened at 7:35 p.m.
Okay.
And it injured 2 people. Fortunately, no one died.
And it was at the laundromat that's really basically across the street from the stadium.
Yeah. And that, of course, prompted the mayor of St. Paul to come out and do a press conference about we had to quit doing this crap and all this stuff. And it really, I mean, you look at that area and you go, I'm a little bit shady about that whole area now, especially with that going on. And there's some shady areas.
It's violent crime has been an issue in the Twin Cities this year.
Yeah, it has been.
I think St. Paul's
been bad,
highest this year in quite a while. But I think it is what it is with urban areas.
Yeah,
just have higher crime because of higher concentration. But
so we leave the stadium. We're sad. Game over.
Yeah.
Now we got to talk about a little bit of housekeeping because we let's first talk about some awards because we had on the last podcast or 2 podcasts ago. Was it last podcast?
I think it was the last podcast. The last one at
okay, so we were up for 3 awards.
Right.
Ike was up for Defender of the Year. Vito was up for Goalkeeper of the Year, and Dawson was up for Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
Dawson didn't win his.
Nope.
Ike won Defender of the Year.
Yep.
Which awesome, right?
Yeah,
because he won it in 2017. Now in 2019 wins it again. They're going to rename the award after him, I think. That's what I'm saying. And we found out this week that Vito won Goalkeeper of the Year.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of surprised those. I mean, maybe not as Minnesota United fans, but I think it kind of surprised us when we were sitting at Omni. I think we all kind of were in agreement that they're up against some stiff competition. It might be tough. But.
Yeah, I think I had pointed out that he didn't hold the season lead for any statistical position.
No. I mean, so he had 11 clean sheets. That was second, I believe, if not third, maybe tied for second, third, whatever you call it. So 11 clean sheets. He had, I think, the other number that stands out was 129 saves, just because that was second in the league behind Bingham, who had 141. But so he was second in several key categories, and he had a 1.29 goals against average, which was tied for 7th in the league, so not that high. And then 15 wins, of course, 5th in the league. So
I mean, I think Goalkeeper of the Year is honestly, unless they're a terrible goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time picking up.
That's a toss-up.
Goalkeeper of the Year.
But it's nice that he won. But that leads us into a little conversation now, which David got in a little bit of a tiff on Twitter. We're going to call him the Stephen A. Smith of Loon's Twitter here, because he made the comment, and we texted back and forth about this the other day, that because he won Goalkeeper of the Year, because he's on loan from Reading, we shouldn't pick him back up because he makes too much money.
Right. Yeah, he was one of the
cost. He's going to cost a lot.
Already, he was one of the higher paid goalkeepers in the league.
He was third this year behind Howard and Guzan.
And I think it was just over 500,000.
Yeah, 545.
But you were saying that Reading, I think, is covering.
And Reading's covering portion. We don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
So,
but his loan ends now. Again, another thing that came up was, when does his loan end?
Right, and there was some confusion. It was. People were referring to a contract which ends in 2020, June 2020, but a lot of people were saying no, it ends in December, which his loan contract ends in December. His contract with Reading ends in June.
So if we wanted to keep him, we'd have to buy his contract out,
So there are a few things. I mean, we could re-up the loan.
Yeah.
But it could only be through
June.
6 months.
It could only be through the contract.
Yep.
So
6 months.
June
Yep.
30th. Or you could buy out, but I don't think that can happen outside of a trade or transfer window.
Okay.
I think. I could be wrong about that. Which means then that he couldn't join us until January 31st, which is fine.
Yeah.
But then you don't know what's going on until
No,
January 31st.
exactly.
And you know, in just reading between the lines, I think, you know, Minnesota has probably approached him and said, "Hey, we'd like you back."
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if they went into. I can only guess. Did they go into details of what kind of contract he could be looking at? I would assume it'd be a multi-year,
Yeah.
you know, contract.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the way Vito made it sound is, you know, he literally, you know, he has, you know, it's kind of mostly in his hands at this point.
Yeah.
He's going to need to. He said he's going to go back home to Italy,
Yep.
and make. You know, think about it. He's going to rest and weigh his options because he's going to have options.
He's going to have a lot of options.
And I think
yeah.
it was. That's what I read between the lines in the article. I think it was made clear to Vito as he left that hey, he'd have a home here, and I think he said he was flattered knowing
Yes.
that Minnesota would be an option.
Yeah, and you know, I think I take what you said, and I take it a step further, and I brought this up on Twitter, and one of the kerfuffles I started.
You got blasted.
Where I said, look, Reading is not doing very well. They're 20th in the league, so they're just a few spots out of relegation from the championship. Cabal, which is their current goalkeeper, he's allowed bottom third goals in the season. They had to bring in a goalkeeper on loan this summer because they let Vito go on loan.
Yep.
And then on top of that, their backup Walker is basically a Vito, but a year younger.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a chance, depending on how the season plays out, Reading may need Vito.
They might.
So
yeah.
you're saying there's a chance he could be playing in the English championship.
I just
later
think
this year.
that Vito probably is going back to Italy thinking, well, Reading's not doing well.
Yeah.
So my loan is up in Minnesota. And come mid-season in England, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to say, well, we need you back.
Yeah.
Because, quite honestly, our season's kind of sucking it up.
Yeah.
So, that makes his value go up.
Of course.
And on top of that, there's just crazy nuances because you can't, obviously, Reading's control over his contract ends in June. So if we sign a loan, that means he'd leave us in June because you can't do anything, which means you'd have to negotiate a permanent deal throughout the spring. What happens if that doesn't work? It's just one of those things where it's just weird. Now you could wait to pick him up on a free transfer, but that means that we have to use somebody else for the first half of the season.
Yep.
And so what's the point of that? I mean, I really just think it's not feasible, logistically possible to keep him.
But let me ask you that. I think most fans, including myself, I'm not paying the salaries of the team, but I mean most fans I think would agree that they would love to see Vito back.
Well,
as a fan,
I would accept him back too.
Of course.
Let me give you this hypothetical then. If it was up to you, David, let's say you could sign Vito Minone, and let's call it the second highest goalkeeper in MLS, multi-year, say 3 years, let's say, for the second highest goalkeeper salary in MLS, would you take that deal?
Yeah.
As a GM, you'd say no to that.
No, because this is another area where I got whooped on Twitter it's just, look, second high. So Guzan is making I think it's $969 this year.
Yep.
Obviously Howard doesn't, is retiring, so he's not in the picture. So yeah, he'd be second highest. Jacob Schneider of E Pluribus Unum said, and I don't know where he based this off of, he said that he'd estimate his contract around $900,000. My God, $900,000. That's either a DP,
yes,
or it's a shit ton of TAM.
Right.
And you look at the issues we have in front, where we have Lude, who isn't performing right now.
No.
Obviously, he still needs time, probably. You have issues with Is Darwin coming back? Is he not? Are we going to pick up that option? You've got issues with Ethan Finley, who, even though I think he finished second in goals for the team, he's been at best.
Yeah.
You've got Molino, who I don't think they've figured out where he needs to play yet.
Yep.
You've got Angelo, who hasn't performed.
And it's probably not going to be here next year.
And probably won't be here. And so then you're going to leave it up to Toy. So you've got 4 spots up front, the top attacking 4, and that's ignoring Miguel.
And Tommy Chacon, who's still, where is he at
Tommy
this point?
Chacon's
We don't
still
know,
new.
really, honestly.
I mean, I'm telling you, we need as much money as we possibly can in cap space and TAM and everything to deal with that.
Unless the ownership wants to spend more money this coming up year after the season we had. Unless we go into this season going, okay, we got the playoffs, now we need to spend more money to get over that hump.
Right.
If we're not going to spend any more money, then your suggestion of getting rid of Vito, that works for me.
Right.
Because we need other places. And I understand that people want Vito to come back because he's a nice guy, and he wins goalkeeper of the year.
Well, and slow down. I mean, I just was wondering in my head when your little Twitter thing came out, I was wondering, how many games might the Loons have lost if Vito wasn't in goalkeeper? And it's an impossible question. You don't know the answer.
I mean, you could probably try to quantify it.
He had a number
5 or 6.
A number of man of the match games where he was deservedly so. And so it's a little scary because now you go into the next season coming off a playoff year with then if they do decide to move on or can't make it work out, however it happens. But a little bit of an unknown. I mean, yes, they drafted Dane St. Clair high, but we haven't seen him in an MLS game.
I think the big thing for me is looking at salaries across the league. I mean, now Bingham's a really bad example because he's new, but he's getting paid $78,000 a year.
Yeah.
And he led the league in saves.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal goalkeeper. Now he deserves way more than that.
Of course he does.
But I mean, even Raimondo was making less than Vito. You had Robles in New York's making less than him. I mean, ultimately, Vito is number 3 in the league in pay. Everyone else in the top 10, in fact, considering that Howard, I don't think was in the top 10 of any category, basically 8 of the top 10 are making less than him.
Yeah.
You don't need to pay a lot of money in MLS to get a good goalkeeper.
Well, especially when you have a defense in front of them, like
Exactly.
we do.
Yeah.
We just spent a ton of, I don't know how much we're going to spend, but we re-upped Ike and we re-upped Boxall.
Right.
Game extensions.
Yeah.
So obviously it tells me that they want to keep this defense together. Right. So who you put behind them really becomes kind of a toss-up.
I don't think we would want to backtrack to Bobby.
We're not going back to Bobby.
It's still, Bobby's also not a $400,000 a year goalkeeper.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with the Twitter post was that Adrian Heath said for many years, or for a few more years to come or something like that. That bothers me because you already had Alex McCracken from True North Elite pointing this out. Beginning of the season, people said Dane St. Clair is going to take 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's already under 1.
Yep.
So now say 2. If you're saying a few more years, that means he's not going to play until, 2024.
Yeah.
So now we're talking he's 28. Now, of course, goalkeepers mature at an older age.
Yep.
But dude, that guy's got some skill. He could easily be Canada national team starting material. You don't want him sitting on a bench for 6 years.
Yeah, I'm
5
sorry.
years.
So back it up just a little bit for my benefit, I guess, and anybody else who hadn't heard that. Did Heath say that he thought Dane St. Clair was not ready for a couple more years, or was that earlier in the year?
That was at the beginning of the season.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, unless something terrible has happened in Dane's development over the season, you have to think 2021 is his year.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to re-sign a guy at, God knows what his Vito's salary would be for a few years more,
and he's going to demand that. I think he could go elsewhere on a multi-year contract.
Yeah, I just think it doesn't work that way.
No,
it can't.
The other thing is too, Dane didn't really get any time on the pitch this year.
Exactly.
Remember at the beginning of the season, I talked about Dane. I said you need to have him in Madison most of the year, getting time, working on his everything. And
he
didn't. he didn't because he was the backup.
Yeah, because
was
they
that.
had a good keeper.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, he had a few games, obviously, in
Well,
friendlies.
friendlies,
But
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
that's one other thing about Vito.